I'm excited for this season of Rocket Motivation because my firm, Hand, Arundel, Harrison Sale, Attorneys at Law, where I am a partner, is our sponsor. We understand life and running a business can be challenging, but with the right support, it can also be incredibly rewarding. That's why we're thrilled to announce our partnership with Hand, Arundel, Harrison Sale.
You know, I always thought of myself as a positive person. I always had this thing in the back of my head that was like, you know, you've had a great life. What's not to be positive about? So I'm proud of myself that I've been able to remain that way through this. But I've learned a lot about myself in the darker moments. You never know what you can get through until you go through it. And I feel kind of proud of myself for going through those dark moments and coming out the other side. You know, there's so many worse things that could happen to me, and now I'm here living and I get this second shot, so I'm very thankful.
Hey everyone, this is Rod Cate and welcome to Season 6 of Rocket Motivation. We're kicking the season off with a great guest. About 7 months ago, this week's guest was diagnosed with stage 4 melanoma. She's only 26 years old. She's undergoing immunotherapy, fighting this cancer, and continuing to live her life to the fullest. She is the epitome of playing with the hand you are dealt. Helen Bender, welcome to Rocket Motivation.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Okay. Helen, let's do this. Let's go to the present, like today. It doesn't have to be right today, but kind of tell us where you are now in your life. Tell, job, career, family, relationships, just kind of catch us up.
Yeah, honestly, when you just said 7 months, I didn't realize it had been that long. That's actually pretty crazy. But I'm kind of just diving back into adulting and, work and friends and everything. And I am in real estate. I actually work right across the street for Sam Winter and Company, and just trying to dive back into everything. And it's crazy after everything, just going back to everyday life, but you got to do what you got to do.
Okay, well, let's talk about when you were first diagnosed with the stage 4 melanoma. Mm-hmm. But first of all, let's tell the listeners, what is stage 4 melanoma?
Yeah, so I had just gotten a mole come up when I was like 17, 18 years old. We got it removed, everything was fine. It came back and it was so ugly. It basically had all of the, irregular borders, discoloration, all the things they say to look for. So we went back, got it biopsied, and then that was kind of it. It was just, they had my lymph nodes checked, everything looked good. And sometimes melanoma can stop there, and that's fine. But 7 years later, I go in for my yearly checkup, and they, see something in my lung. And then I'd go on a trip to Italy for a little bit. I think they knew that maybe it was something, but if it was, that I had, a couple days, wouldn't matter too much about it. And then I came back and I got a CT scan, and that's when it switched to stage 4, and that was a lot scarier than the original, just, mole on your skin. And that's when we found out the CT scan showed that they could tell it was melanoma, they could tell it was cancer, and basically stage 4 means that it has spread everywhere. It's basically, I think I remember him saying, we see 6 so far. And I was like, okay, so there's 6. And he's like, well, there's more than 6. And I think that was when I figured out surgery wasn't an option. You can't cut into, I think it was like 16 or 20 tumors in my body. Okay,
and that's what I was wondering. Tumors, that's what you're talking about.
Yes.
Throughout your body.
Yeah, so I guess it spread through the lymph nodes, and then I have some on my pancreas, some in my lungs, some in my intestines. It's just kind of like everywhere. So it's, I don't know. It's just crazy.
but so when you got this diagnosis for the first time, I don't mean going back to when you had the mole, but mm-hmm. the diagnosis of the stage 4 melanoma. But when you went into the doctor, were you just feeling okay?
Felt completely fine. I had a lump on underneath my jawline, and I had looked up and I thought it was just like a salivary gland, thinking it was nothing. I was getting ready for my trip, just going to this yearly appointment. Then, I have an x-ray every time and blood work. Blood work looks fine. And they came back and they're like, this wouldn't be something we're too worried about, this spot in your lung, but with your history, I think we need to take it seriously. And even then, I was like, I'm sure it'll be nothing, like it'll be fine. And it wasn't until, I was nervous because the more and more I thought about it, there's a lump on my jawline, there was another one at the bottom of my neck, and then they're saying there's something in my lung. So I kind of knew, but I'm weirdly kind of good at compartmentalizing my feelings. So I tend to just, if I want to have a good day, I'm going to have a good day. I'm going to, so I kind of pushed that back for a little bit. And then when I was ready to deal with it and ready to, get all those answers, we went back in about a week and then dived into it.
So this diagnosis, it comes as a shock.
Oh, yeah. It was definitely hard to process because I went by myself, which was by choice, and I didn't want it any other way. I don't know. I don't like going to those appointments with anyone. But I told my fiance, just, wait by the phone and I'll let you know how it goes. And, the two doctors walk in and they tell me the cancer is back. It's stage 4. And I just was just sitting there. I was like, oh, crap. Like, I don't really know how to process that. And I don't, there's just this whole new, like, your whole life changes in a second and you have no idea of what it's about to look like. So you don't really know how to process that.
Do they give you a prognosis then when they first tell you about it? Like, this is bad,
He basically said, he was kind of looking at me like, how is she processing this? And he was kind of looking at me, waiting and giving me some time. And he was like, we really need you to understand what this means. Like, this is stage 4. This is going to be hard. And I really, I just called my fiance and was like, come to the doctor's office. I don't think I processed it for like another week or so. I just kind of took the information in, and it took me a while to really understand what was going on.
Well, especially when it's such a shock. It's one thing if you're sick and you like, this is building up to this, but
I was completely fine.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, well, all right, so you get this bomb dropped on you, and I know it's taking you a little time to process it, but when you do, kind of what's going through your head?
Man, I think the first thing I thought of was having to tell my family. I think that was, that was the first thing that came through my head, and how that was going to go and how I was going to tell them that. Like, how do you tell someone you love that? At that point, I was like, oh, I'm dying for sure. Like, stage 4, there's a reason why they number it. Stage 4 is the worst, I think there's a stage 5 too, which is crazy. But I wasn't sure how I was going to tell my family. So thank God the doctor agreed. I was like, I need to call someone. So he took my phone and he called my dad for me. And, I told my dad, like, hey, I'm here. The doctor, we got the results back. I just wanted him to go over it with you. And then thank God he took that responsibility off of me and told my dad. And, I just told my dad I loved him. And both my sister and my mom were on the way back from New Orleans. And I just knew that I didn't want them to find out in the car. That just sounds terrible. So my fiance showed up, or my boyfriend at the time, he showed up, he drove me home, and luckily my dad was able to tell my mom and my sister so I didn't have to. So a lot of that was taken off me that day. And I just drove home to my house with my fiance, and one of my roommates was home. I was like, can y'all go grab lunch or something? We have something going on. And I think it kind of set in there, we just cried and stuff. And I knew I was just dreading going back to seeing my parents and my sister. I love them, but they were the hardest to see after all that,
Right. After the initial, that day, then a week or so goes by. What's the thought process going on as time is going forward? Oh
my gosh. The farther I get away from it, the longer the time has passed, the clearer the memories become. But it was very hazy, very I've said this before, but I was just kind of floating through it. If people who go through this by themselves, I cannot imagine going through that by myself, because I had, my dad handling the financials of it, my mom showing up to every single, my whole family showed up to every appointment, but my mom was there for everything, and my aunt was there with a giant binder with all the things that the doctors had said. My sister was bringing me snacks. It was just everything. They took everything, all the responsibilities off of me, so I could just be there, deal with my emotions and kind of float through it. So it's weird transitioning from that to going back to, regular life and responsibilities and dealing with it, but it's just a lot easier now that the medicine is working.
Right. And so that's what I want to get to. So you get treatment.
Yeah.
So you go see some of the best cancer doctors in the world,
mm-hmm.
and then so you start with this immunotherapy. Is that how
Yes.
it started? Is that the first treatment that you started with, was the immunotherapy?
Yeah. So basically, with so many tumors, it's basically having an inoperable tumor. They're not just going to start cutting into me all these places. So we put all our eggs in this basket of immunotherapy, and it's been amazing. I basically felt like it can be scary getting in a terminal illness or, stage 4 type of cancer, but I felt like it was almost like I got a heads up that not everyone can get. I feel like you can get in a car accident. There's so many things you can die in an instant. And I was able to get this heads up from God, the universe, basically saying, live life to the fullest. You only get one life, and I'm going to give you a little shove to, you live the life the way you want to. And now I'm getting this extra shot, which I don't know what to do with, but
Well, none of us get out of here alive.
Yeah,
But it is different. I mean, it's, with what I went through, though. I mean, I was 15 years old when I broke my neck and was paralyzed from the neck down. Mm-hmm. And like you talking about, like not being able to process. I mean, when you're 15 years old, you can't process something like that.
You just can't.
But one thing you learn as time goes by, I think you get, as you get farther away from this, you can look back. I mean, exactly what you said is exactly right. You realize you only get one life.
Yeah.
And, the question is, what you going to do with it?
Yeah, for sure. So at first, you struggle with the whys and hows and, is this my fault? Is this, why is this happening? All this stuff. But then once the medicine started working, it kind of changed the gears in my brain to being like, there's so many worse things that could happen to me. And now, like, I'm here living and I get this second shot. So I'm very thankful. And
tell us a little bit about the immunotherapy. So tell us about the treatment that you're undergoing presently.
Yeah. So, I go to the hospital at MD Anderson and I get plugged up to an IV after getting some blood work done. And I just, lay there and watch some TV while the medicine goes into my arm. And it's really not that bad. It's now that we're able to do it in Mobile, it's a lot better. The travel was hard, just, driving 9 hours or flying and not knowing if you're getting good news or bad news. And now I'm able to just, drive down to Spring Hill Avenue and they plug me up and I get my medications. It's Yervoy and Optivo. And now they've taken me off of Yervoy and I just have Optivo.
Okay. And so I know the immunotherapy is different from chemo. And in that chemo just wipes everything out completely, right?
Yeah.
And so, but immunotherapy, it actually targets exactly what you've got.
It is so crazy. So one of the medicines, I think Optivo, it builds up your immune system to fight the cancer. And the first doctor we saw at MD Anderson described it to me that the second medicine, Yervoy, actually, melanoma is so smart that it can recognize that it's been identified and then it masks itself so that it can continue to grow and, it has a goal of, spreading everywhere. So then the Yervoy works in so that it can unmask the melanoma so that the Optivo can jump in and build up the immune system to fight it.
Right.
Which is so crazy.
And how often do you have the immunotherapy?
So I just switched from every 3 weeks to every month. So, and it gives me such quality of life. And I've been able to just, carry about my days and, I don't have too many side effects. And I had some side effects for the medicine, fevers and stuff like that. And all of that has stopped. So I'm able to have a great quality of life, which I think is the most important.
So you've got the stage 4 melanoma. You're having immunotherapy on a monthly basis. Mm-hmm. And you just continue to live your life. You have your job. I know you're now engaged. Uh-huh. And so you're just moving forward.
Yeah, it's crazy. The world does not stop. It keeps going. So you just kind of have to feel like it's like a treadmill. You have to just jump back on when you're ready. And that was definitely a transition from just, especially I think when the side effects stopped, I was like, okay, I'm so ready to get out of this bubble that has been this, cancer bubble basically. And everyone was, sending me so much love and prayers. And I think that gave me the courage to kind of, okay, it's time to get back in.
Well, have they given you a prognosis now that you're on the immunotherapy?
Kind of, not really. It's basically, he said that now that the medicine is working, it's like an 80% chance of it continuing to work. And for me to be able to get to remission, which obviously is a goal. And the last time I talked to my doctor, he said that I'm likely to get into remission before the 2-year mark, which so excited about, the sooner the better, but we'll see.
Have you ever had the why me moment or the feeling sorry for yourself?
Oh my God, yeah.
Well, tell us about that.
So I feel like you like to remain positive and, think, every day I wake up, if my alarm doesn't go off, I'm like, well, thank God I didn't get into that wreck that was totally going to happen if my alarm went off. Always think, everything happens for a reason and stay positive. But I think to remain positive, you have to have those why me moments and have that movie night with yourself, eating popcorn, crying, asking like, why is this happening to me? Because usually when I did have those nights, I'd wake up ready to be positive again. I feel like you have to feel those feelings and let them soak in and process them so that you can come out on the other side.
Right.
And, I've definitely had those why me moments, and I still do. You wonder how this happens. And, I've always tried to be as kind as possible and do good. And you wonder, all those efforts. And this is, these are the cards I'm dealt. Like, what the hell? But I definitely, after all the love I received through, like, something so bad happened, but so many good things and so many positive and happy things came from it. I feel like that was just so beautiful. I think everything is meant to be as it has happened.
Has having this cancer changed you in any way?
I think so. It's hard to say. I feel like I'm still like in the middle of it, but it's definitely made me appreciate everything a lot more, be a lot grateful for everything, and be more, I feel like I can relate to people that have struggled a lot more, and you start to see, I feel like I was just bouncing through life, just having a great time, and now you can kind of see it in people that when they're kind of going through something and you can help them.
Well, and that's what you're supposed to do when you're 26. You're supposed to be bouncing through life, having a good time.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of part of it. And so then you get this that comes crashing down on you. And, unfortunately, sometimes these things happen to people, and then, you're forced to deal with it.
For sure. I think that, you hear about cancer and how horrible it is, and you it exists, and you donate when you can, but actually being diagnosed with it, it's opened me up to all these incredible people that I've met, getting treatment in Mobile, and other people who have gone through it have reached out to me, and it's like crazy that all these people have been going through this, and you see them in the grocery store and they're just living their lives, and you just have no idea. And now that I've experienced it, I really have so proud of all these people that have gone through this.
Yeah. What have you learned about yourself going through this?
I always, when I thought of myself as a positive person, I always had this thing in the back of my head that was like, you've had a great life. What's not to be positive about? So I'm proud of myself that I've been able to remain that way through this. But I've learned a lot about myself in the darker moments. And I feel like you never know what you can get through until you go through it. And I feel like I'm kind of proud of myself for going through those dark moments and coming out the other side. You kind of have to, but I'm still proud of myself for being able to do that.
Well, but you say you have to. I mean, and I get that a lot too. That I just live my life because I got to live my life. I don't have a choice. I'm married. I got kids. I got a job. There's no time to sit around feeling sorry.
The world keeps going. Yeah,
it does. I mean, what you said, the world keeps spinning. It absolutely does. But I think there are people out there that, I mean, that go through what you're going through that have probably folded up and have not have been as tough and as positive as you. So, I mean,
it's easy to shut down, but I think, opening up to your family and your friends and, letting them help you, and I don't know, just kind of, again, like going through those emotions and letting yourself feel them and process them. And just, I feel like how I said I compartmentalized a lot. I think that I kind of had to stop that because I would just, push my feelings aside and be like, I can deal with this later. But I learned that, just feel what you got to feel, let it pass through your body, and then, come out the other side.
Right. How about looking at your future? How do you see it?
I have no idea how to answer that question, just because it's so weird going back and doing all the adulting things and like putting money into my Roth IRA. I'm like, am I going to be here to, and I don't mean to be dark like that. I have developed a lot of dark humor through all this, but it's like planning for a future that is just so unsure. It seems silly, but you still got to do it. Like I look forward and I'm like, I hope that I'll be here, but like I have just lived such a great, happy life. I have made so many happy memories. I'm so happy with it. So, if mine is cut a little bit shorter than everyone else's, I'm very happy with the life that I've lived, and I hope to live for as long as possible. But I think just choosing to wake up every day and being happy with what you got, I think is a big part that when you get that kind of news, you're good with it.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things too is, and someone told me one time is, you got to answer the bell every day.
Yeah.
No matter what's going on. You can't just stay in bed. You just you got to keep living.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, so what advice would you give somebody, say somebody that's young like you, that gets a cancer diagnosis, what can you tell them, or like some advice you can give them to kind of help them get through it?
I'd say, 1, it's not your fault. 2, you don't have to be brave. Give yourself, some room to be sad about it. I think a big thing that helped me was letting people in and letting them help me, I think was really big for me, because you kind of shut down a bit, but like taking those responsibilities off yourself for a bit and letting people help you, because everyone's like, what can I do for you? Can I do anything for you? Let them do some stuff, I think it's a very stressful time. So, give yourself room to live and to feel and to process everything.
Right. And now I want to broaden the question out, because, the purpose of Rocket Motivation Podcast is to, help people overcome adversity. They hear stories of people that are overcoming it. But, aside from just, advice you give somebody that's going through cancer or treatment, just say somebody that's going through some tough times, down on their luck, based upon what you've gone through, what advice would you give somebody that needs a pick me up or needs some help getting through some tough times?
Yeah, I feel like get out of bed. Go. When I leave here, I'm going to stop at Old Dutch and I'm going to get myself an ice cream cone, because, I want some ice cream. You got to just treat yourself, give yourself those happy moments. And if you have a stressful day, give yourself an extra 30 minutes to something that you want to do. I feel like just giving yourself that. And especially with, the world keeps spinning, life goes on, there's all these crazy things happening. Just give yourself some time. And, if you need to go and take a weekend by yourself, turn off your phone, go to Dolphin Island for a weekend and just, watch some TV. I don't know. I feel like it's just giving yourself room to live and to breathe. I think it's important.
Yeah. Well, Helen, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. I mean, it's been great having you here. Like we talked earlier, I've known your mom and dad for for what seems like forever, and having you here and telling your story based on what you've been through and what you're going through, and I can certainly say that I've been watching you and the bravery that you show. Just knowing you got this diagnosis. That the positive, that you got some great treatment, so the future looks bright, and so it's it's good stuff that you're able to really be this tough and get through it.
Yeah, I'm very thankful and grateful, and I mean, there's just so many great things that have come out of it, friendships and stronger bonds and everything. So I feel like there's always good things that come out of the bad if you just look for them.
Yeah, like you said earlier that. You were just bouncing through life, everything going great, and now now you got a little something more serious kind of going.
Yeah, I'm not bouncing as high these days, but I have my good days, I have my bad, but I'm thankful I feel like it's matured me, it's made me a more well-rounded person. I love that I was able to just kind of be so bouncy and and have this happy life, but I think that I'm now thankful that I can take this darkness and turn it into something else, and there's a strength in there that I didn't know I had, so I'm thankful for that too, and I think that I'll be able to help people one day with it. I've been nervous about that, knowing that being diagnosed so young, that I know inevitably people that I know and my sphere of influence and friends and everyone, that things are going to happen to people that I know. So I've been preparing myself, trying to learn everything about it, so that when people do come, I'm hoping that they'll be able to lean on me and come back to me.
Well, we all have some struggles that we overcome, but when something like this happens, I mean, that's pretty monumentous of a change. What happened to you, what happened to me, what happens to other people. But from what happened to me, it's almost like, especially as you get older, you almost look at life a little bit more philosophically, in that you can almost remove yourself from certain situations and kind of have more of a perspective on it. Do you ever feel like that?
That kind of happened to me this weekend. I just kind of whenever I was at like a pretty dark point, and this wasn't like necessarily a negative thought, but my family was spending a lot of time together, and I would just sit back and I would watch all of them laugh, and everyone just passing drinks around, passing food around, and I just sat back, and like it kind of felt like I wasn't there, I'm included in it, but I was almost like, it makes you imagine yourself not there, and you hope that they can be this happy and have these interactions when you're gone. And I just kind of sit back and like appreciate, I don't know, I feel like I sit back and just watch my friends like it's a movie and just sit back and appreciate it.
Well, that's exactly what I was saying. It's almost like you can remove yourself or step back from it and watch it.
I haven't thought about
life go on, but it's you're still a part of it.
Yeah,
you are. But it's almost like you have this sense of I got something. I mean, it's not like no one else has cancer. I know, but it's like you got something going on that really nobody else does. At least not your friends and family, and it almost kind of sets you apart in a good way in that, you're like, I'm going through this and I can handle it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like it's definitely made me stronger, and I think it'll turn into something great one day for sure.
I bet it will.
Yeah, it already has.
All right, so I always give the guest the parting shot, which is, we've talked a lot about deep stuff, a lot of emotional stuff, a lot of great advice, but this is the time, dig deep, give us some great advice, a good thought you've got to take us home.
Oh, okay. I think that, you would think that your perspective or something that you would want to say after this would change, but I've always thought everyone should leave a conversation with you better off. Every conversation I have with people, I want them to leave, better off, happier, more joyful, or got something from it. And I feel like you don't have to do something big and crazy, especially when you get a diagnosis like this. I feel like you've got to do something huge with this second part of life. But I think that just all the little things throughout the day, everyone you meet, putting a smile on their face, I think that all adds up in the end. And I think that is the most important thing.
All right. So, Helen, if people want to follow you to see how you're doing, to see your success and the treatment you're going through, I mean, is there a way that they can do that on social media?
Yeah, so my Instagram is Helen_Bender, and I kind of just update about my life on that. But as far as the medicine and the cancer journey, my family has a Facebook page. I think it's just called Helen Bender's Journey. And so that's all the, medical updates and, how I'm doing with all the medicine and stuff like that.
Okay. And now I know that we're in Deep Fried Studios. The producer, Johnny Gwynn, this is his company. We're sitting here in the recording studio. Johnny also produces another podcast called The Cancering Show that you have been on.
Yes, yeah.
And then tell us about that.
Yeah, so it kind of got into the medical side of it, and the story about the Zed show at Hangout Festival and stuff like that. I think that they have that posted. I think you listen to it on Spotify, The Cancering Show. Yeah, and they're on anywhere you can listen to podcasts, they're on there. All of the Deep Fried Studios productions are on, and anywhere you can listen to podcasts, they're on there. But yeah. Well, all right, that's good. But so, because I know there's going to be some people out there that want to follow you and want to keep up with you, and so that's a great way to do it. I'll be glad to have them. All right. Well, Helen, thanks so much for coming in. This has been a thrill for me, and this is just a great way to start off season 6 of Rocket Motivation, to have such a great guest like you. I heard your story, so I was really excited. And I want to hear more about you too, but I was really excited to meet you today. All right. Well, good. It's been my pleasure having you here. What a great way to kick off season 6 of Rocket Motivation. Helen Bender's story of dealing with her diagnosis of stage 4 melanoma, fighting this cancer, and continuing to live her life is exactly what Rocket Motivation is all about. Next week's guest is Mike Bailey. He's going to tell his story about losing his adult son to fentanyl. It's going to be a great show. See you next week. Thanks again for listening to Rocket Motivation. I want to again thank our sponsor, my law firm, Hand Arundel Harris & Self, with offices in Mobile, Birmingham, Fairhope, and Athens, Alabama, and Destin, Panama City Beach, and Santa Rosa Beach, Florida. We are uniquely situated among the Southeast major law firms to provide legal direction to clients throughout Alabama and Northwest Florida. So whether you're looking for legal advice, litigators, or simply a partner you can trust, Hand Arundel Harris & Sale is there for you. Thank you for listening, and be sure to check out Hand Arundel Harris & Sale for all your legal needs. Visit our website at handfirm.com. And if you would like to get my book, Get Back Up, it's available at Amazon. Just put in Get Back Up and my name, Rod Cate, and the book will pop up. I'd appreciate it if you would subscribe to Rocket Motivation wherever you listen to your podcasts. And please rate and review the shows and spread the word about Rocket Motivation to your friends. So until next time, remember, never give up and always get back up.